Hello, everyone, and welcome to NCYC 101.4, which is going to be all about fundraising. My name is Ryan, and I am the event marketing specialist at NCYM. Today, I'm glad to be joined here today with Jennifer Chellberg, who is the youth and young adult minister at the Nativity Catholic Church in the Diocese of Orlando. Hi, Jennifer. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well.
So I hear you're the guru almost of fundraising. And I know usually when people think of NCYC or are introduced to it, all they can think about is how much does it cost and how will we get enough money to send even probably one young person to it. From what I hear, the most effective means of making NCYC possible is fundraising. And so, Jennifer, what's your take on fundraising for NCYC and why is it so important for you and your parish?
So yeah, fundraising is definitely a super important part of NCYC. And I think the biggest reason it's important is because it enables NCYC to be an experience that every teen has the opportunity to be a part of. NCYC is definitely the most expensive youth event that we do throughout the year. But I think it's also the most important that our young people have the opportunity to participate in. And so I don't want anyone to ever be excluded from that because of the cost associated with that. And so fundraising kind of breaks down those barriers and makes NCYC something that's accessible to fundraising for clubs at school. They've got fundraising for band, for chorus, for all of those other events that they have going on in school and extracurriculars and outside of that. And so NCYC fundraising can be just one more thing on that list that we've got to raise money for another thing. And so I always try to kind of change the perspective with my parish group and help them to not look at NCYC as just another fun trip that we're going on. I really encourage both our parish group and our diocesan delegation to look at NCYC as a pilgrimage and keeping that mentality through our whole preparation for NCYC, but also tying that into our experience with fundraising as well, so that it's not just another checkbox I've got to check off to raise some money to get my plane ticket or my hotel or my meals or whatever it is there. But if they really keep that pilgrimage mentality as we're going through all of it, I think that changes their approach to fundraising as well. And so a lot of times when we're talking about pilgrimage, we think of we're taking a trip to someplace holy. And so when I first introduced that concept to our parish teams or our diocesan delegation, sometimes like we're going to Lucas Oil Stadium, like what's holy about the football stadium there? But I encourage them to think about the fact that Lucas Oil Stadium is made holy by the fact that 20,000 young people are gathering there for 3 days of prayer and worship and time together. And so kind of keeping that mentality at the focus in all of our fundraising efforts, I always think is very important.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that change in perspective. So let's kind of stay at that more theoretical level. What are other like best practices? I mean, when you're doing fundraising, I'm sure you just get caught up in, the Excel files and all the events that you need to plan. But what are or what are more best practices that you can offer for someone who is in the middle of fundraising?
So yeah, fundraising definitely serves kind of a dual purpose. The main
Mhm.
goal of it obviously is to raise that money, whatever the dollar amount is that you need to get, whether it's one teen or 100 teens that you're looking to get to NCYC. And so the ultimate goal is, yes, how can we raise some money? But I think the secondary piece of that is almost just as important, and that's raising awareness for what NCYC is and what the experience can bring to our young people. And so we try to make sure that all of our fundraising events kind of keep that in mind as we're doing them. So from a parish perspective, I usually, when we first start gathering with our group, we meet monthly for a certain number of months kind of leading up to the NCYC pilgrimage. And that those meetings are a time for our teens to kind of get to know each other and build community, but then also to look at what can we do for fundraisers. And so when we're looking at the overall fundraisers, there's usually kind of two categories of them. And within the first category, there's even another two categories. But so the first ones are things that we do within the parish. So looking at ways that we can reach out to the parish to support the young people that are going on the trip. And those fundraisers are, the two categories for those are typically things that I plan that are kind of ongoing recurring events that we have at the parish, and then things that I empower the young people to come up with and engage in themselves. And the reason for doing the fundraisers within the parish the importance of it that I see is that it gives parishioners a face and a name with where their money is going. So we have a very generous parish, parishioners that are always willing to support any cause that's going on. But I feel like they're even more generous when they're able to see in front of them that young person that they are making a donation to be able to send to go to this NCYC experience. When they're able to have that conversation with the team to hear, why is this that you want to go? And they hear the young person talking about the opportunities and experiences that they're looking forward to at NCYC. So they see this isn't just, I'm writing a check so that a kid can take off 2 days from school and go have some fun in Indianapolis. They're hearing these young people share about the importance of this experience for themselves. And then also when we come back from NCYC, we have the opportunity to go back to those people who helped to support us from the parish and say, to let the teens say, this is what I got out of my experience. This is what it meant to me. This is what I'm bringing back to share here in the parish and then the other side of that is also doing fundraisers out in the community. So that we're not just tapping our parishioners for all of our fundraising support, but that we're reaching out to the local community. And that's also helping to spread the awareness of what NCYC is to the larger community. We do restaurant spirit nights where we have local restaurants that will donate a portion of anybody who eats in the restaurant that night and mentions that they're there to support the church, they'll donate a portion of their bill back to the parish to support that. And we've been in the restaurant before where somebody's asked, what's this money going to? What are you doing? And so we get an opportunity to explain that we're taking kids to Indianapolis for the National Catholic Youth Conference and what all that involves. So it gives us an opportunity to kind of evangelize in the larger community as we reach out for support there too. So
you mentioned one of your fundraisers, the Spirit Restaurant Day or Night. What is your most successful fundraiser that you ever did? And then also, what is your least successful fundraiser that you ever did? And then what did you learn from that? Because I think examples help affirm us, but also help us avoid what to do in the future as well.
Definitely. And I found that what works one year might not work the next year. So we've found that we've tried a fundraiser and it's been very successful, and then we try it again and it doesn't work. So a lot of it is hit or miss. The restaurant spirit nights are a great fundraiser that don't require any work on our part. We reach out to local restaurants, local businesses, and I've even reached out to some that have never done a spirit night before. A lot of them we start with are ones that the schools typically have spirit nights with or other places, but I've also reached out to local kind of new mom and pop small businesses that open and say, hey, would you be willing to offer something like this? And they've jumped on that opportunity because it's good business for them to draw in some people to them and to, again, raise awareness for our cause. So those are one of my favorites as far as something that doesn't require any work on my part. Within the parish, we have a couple of things that we have set on kind of a regular ongoing basis. And so those have been the most successful just because there's something that's kind of built traction over the years. So we do a Fat Tuesday pancake dinner every year. So the day before Ash Wednesday, we cook 50 pounds of pancake mix, make hundreds of pancakes, and it's $5 a person for all you can eat pancakes, but it's a great community builder for the parish. And then also the kids are the ones that are making the pancakes and serving them and refilling toppings and all of those kind of things. So it gives the parishioners an opportunity to see the young people there. So that's definitely been a successful one over the years. We make corsages on Mother's Day. We buy 150 carnations and the kids get together on Saturday morning and snip down the corsages, wrap them in floral tape, tie bows on them, put a little corsage pin in them. And then before and after all the masses on Mother's Day, we sell those corsages to the parish. So it's, again, something that the teens are invested in because they handmade each of those corsages, and then they're there after all of the masses selling them to the parishioners. So those have been a couple that are kind of set ones that we've done every year that have built traction over the years. We've also done fundraising dinners with a silent auction attached to it. The silent auction piece is always kind of key because everything you make there is profit. So even on the dinner, if we don't make a lot of money off of our dinner tickets, everything we're making in the silent auction is coming back as profit to the trip there. And again, another opportunity, the teens are the ones serving the tables and being present to the parishioners there. And the way any of the ones that I empower the teens to kind of come up with and run with themselves. The way it usually works is they get a percentage of the money they make from that if they participate in it. So if a group of the kids get together and say, we want to do a car wash, we'll tell the whole group about it. But if only 8 of the 12 of them come to the car wash, then those 8 get to split whatever they made at the car wash that day. So the teens that are really invested and really want to participate could fundraise the entire cost of their trip.
I think an interesting question to follow up is that with that is, do you think it's better to have like multiple smaller fundraisers or like one really large one that pulls in most of the cash?
It's nice to have one big one that can kind of knock it all out of the
Mhm.
park, but we found that we like having multiple small ones,
Yeah.
just because it gives us more exposure, more opportunities to have those interactions with the parishioners, with the community, with the families. And the small ones add it, especially when you're looking at things like NCYC. For our parish, we've typically taken a smaller group as our delegation for NCYC. So a small fundraiser goes a long way when you're only fundraising for 10 kids or 15 kids. Sometimes when we're doing fundraising for things like our mission trip where we were taking 50 or 60 kids, you do a fundraiser and you make $200. That's per kid. That's not a huge amount. You make $200 and you're only taking 10 kids. It's $20 per kid. That's a good chunk of their fundraising there for it. So we have found doing smaller things like the bake sales, the car washes, those kind of things for NCYC give us both more exposure.
How about for a brand new youth minister or maybe a minister trying to get a first group to NCYC? I mean, it's a little different than what your position is, but I mean, do you have any tips for them or like even like a first step that they should do to begin fundraising at their parish?
So yeah, I've actually kind of been in that situation. So I am coordinating our diocesan delegation this year. So we don't have a diocesan director in our diocese right now. And so the diocese has asked me to take on that. And we have in our diocesan delegation this year, we have, I think, 4 or 5 parishes that are coming for the first time with new youth ministers who have never done this before. So I've had a lot of those conversations. Okay, where do I start? What do I do? And so most of them are past the point of now having their group established. They've had discernment gatherings, kind of reached out to who are the young people that I want to invite to be a part of this or that would really benefit from being a part of this. And so they kind of got their group established. And then it's okay, where do I go from here? What do I do from there? One of the first steps I always encourage them is to make sure that they have their parish staff on board. Like make sure the pastor knows what's going on, make sure the rest of the staff knows what the kind of timeline of it looks like, what your expectations are as far as we need to fundraise X amount of money, or we are really going to be focusing our efforts on reaching out to the parish during this particular time, or we have this deadline to meet, so we need to have made sure we've raised $2,000 by this date, whatever the timeline is there, but making sure that you have the collaboration of the whole staff is definitely helpful as you're getting started, because we know youth ministry can be very isolating. Nobody else really understands what we're doing. And so being able to have that team and that support behind you is definitely helpful. And then also gathering adults, not just on your staff, but either your adults that are coming with you to NCYC or other adult volunteers from the parish that are willing to help. So don't go it alone. Find people in the parish that you can tap into and tap into their gifts. If you've got somebody who's very outgoing that likes making those phone calls and reaching out to businesses and companies and saying, hey, can we host a fundraiser there? Would you be willing to sponsor a kid? Let them run with that, empower them to run with that. If you have someone who's very organized in details, let them take on okay, I will figure out what meals our kids are going to eat each day, or what time we need transportation to pick us up at the airport, all of those kind of pieces of it. And then the same goes with fundraising. If you've got somebody that's great at asking people for money, or great at rallying up support, empower them, walk with them. Don't just say, okay, I need you to raise $20,000 for us, go. But let them use their gifts, let them kind of run with it. But definitely start with that, building that team of people that can do that. So if you're starting for the first time, don't try to go it alone and be like, okay, I've got to fundraise all of this money. I've got to figure out how to form the kids that are going. I need to figure out where we're staying. I need to figure out all of those details. Empower a team around you that can help with all of those, and build that relationship with the parents of the teens that are going as well. Even if they're not traveling with you to NCYC, they're a part of this pilgrimage experience too. So really build that relationship, take time. My first meeting is always with the teens and their parents to make sure the whole family's kind of on board and understands what the the experience is going to look like, and has kind of bought into it too, because that's definitely helpful in the long run.
Awesome. So one last thing, what is like some words of encouragement or something to keep in mind, or maybe just if you had to summarize it up in like one or two sentences to a parish minister, what would you say about fundraising?
Do it. Fundraising is important. It's easy to just, even if you come from a very affluent parish that could just write a check and say, we're going to send 15 young people, here's the money for it, go on the trip. Fundraising is such an important part of getting the teens to take ownership in that experience, to really build community with them. So it's important to do, even if it's not necessarily necessary. I think there's so many benefits that can come from the fundraising experience. And then don't get discouraged if you make $100 at a fundraiser, but your teens met 15 new parishioners that got to hear their story of why they're going to NCYC and what they're hoping to get out of that experience. That's more valuable than the $100 that you made from whatever that fundraising event was. So there's no fundraiser too big or too small, but definitely keep it personal and focus on those relationships, because I think that's what's the most important in the long run, is those connections and those personal relationships of people that are walking with our teens. We can't do it alone. We need the support of our entire parish community. And so if we can build those relationships and raise some money along the way, I think it's a win for everybody involved.
Well, that's some great advice and some great wisdom, Jennifer. I know you've been doing this for a long time. And so I'm just really thankful that you said yes to helping us with our NCYC 101. So if you want to see Jennifer at NCYC, you can by going to ncyc.us and purchasing a pass for yourself or even for your entire parish group. And NCYC in Indianapolis will be in Indianapolis, Indiana, from November 16th to the 18th. And the theme is fully alive. So hope to see you there. Thanks.